Now today we'll see a new concept in preference, that is the preference headers. Now as we have already seen in the preference screens, we click connectivity and a new screen pops up. So in case of preference headers, what we have is we have all the preferences listed as a list, and as soon as we click a preference heading, it will come on the same page in case there is space on the mobile or the tablet. And in case there is less space for the preference screen to be shown, then it will come as a new screen. So for a preference header, we'll start off creating a preference header XML file. I'll create a new XML file. Type of this is preference. I'll say preference header. Now this file won't have preference screen as the top level tag. Rather it has a new tag which is preference headers. And we need to put down the namespace. I'll copy it from some other file. So this is my main header tag. Now within this I'll have to create one header tag for every heading. So I'll have a header, and for every header I need to create a fragment, and I name the class in com.example.pref header1, and I can set the title in the summary, Android title header1, Android summary of 1. So I have one header, I can have another header, and I can say prefh2, and I can say header2 and summary of 2. And the third, I can just simply put down an intent. So whenever we click that, it will open up a browser and open up a page in that. So I'll say header, and even we can assign some icon to this. You can say Android icon is equal to drawable /ic underscore launcher. So I'll copy this to all, as I have only one image in my drawable folder. So again I can have here, I can say now Android title intent, and then I can add the intent to this. I can say intent, just close this tag here and copy this to this intent Android action is equal to Android dot intent dot action dot view, which will open as a browser, as I will set the data to this Android data is equal to http, let us open google.com. So I finish off with my header file. I've created 3 headers. 2 are simple plain headers, and we have assigned the preference fragment files to both of them. And I have a header which operates as an intent. I click on the header and it will open up a browser for me, opening a page, google.com. So let me now create a file that would load the headers. I'll say this as load header. Now this will extend preference activity And now as we had earlier added the preferences from the header file, now we'll load the headers from the preference file. So on build headers I need, on create I need, so these two methods I'll need. And in the build headers I'll load the headers from the resource file. I'll say load headers from resource, which is r.xml.pref header. So as you can see, the parameter to this on build headers method is a list which has every element as a header, and in our XML file, the preference header file, we have every element as a header. So this copies each element of this into the list, so it will appear, the preference screen will appear as a list. So now we need to create two preference screens which are fragments. So we'll create two simple preference files. I'll say pref h1, this is a preference, and I'll simply add a checkbox preference to this. Add checkbox preference. We'll edit to add title and key as we did earlier. Key, and I can add Android title. First preference, and we can add some summary. So simply we have added a checkbox preference to this first header file preference, and save as to create another. So we have two XML files, and now we'll have to create two fragment files for loading these XML files. So I'll create two preference files, new class pref h1, and I'll say it extends preference fragment, and again I'll create on create and load my add preferences from resource r.xml.prefetch1. So this is my first fragment file. I'll save as, create another. So I'll rename to, I'll change the fragment preference file. So we've done this. So what we've done exactly is I've created a header file. We have generated all the headers. I have loaded all the headers from the XML file and shown it on the screen. We have two XML files for showing preferences for each header, and corresponding we have the Java file. So we have all set up, just we need to create a main activity, and now in the main activity we'll simply have a button on the click of which will show up this screen. So I'll simply have header show. Now we simply have a button, and we'll call this as show headers. Show head, and we'll create a main activity class, header show, extend as an activity, In the meantime, let us also start off with our tablet. This tablet I have already started as an emulator. Instead of the emulator, this time we have started a tablet to see the effect of this header file. So source, we need on create. I have on create. I'll simply say set content view r dot layout dot header show. So I'll clean the project, and now I need to implement the main method. Now I won't implement how we can obtain the values from the preference screen, as we already know how to get values from the simply we seeing what difference a header file makes to the appearance of the preference file, how convenient it becomes when we use a header file. So I'll simply create an intent and we say load header dot class, and we'll show start activity I. So we've done all the code. Okay, so I just need to add 2 files to my manifest file. Yeah, one of the file is my header show, which is the main file. This is header show, and then I'll add the other, which is load header. So I've got everything set for a show. So I'll just run my activity. So just clean the project, preference. Okay, so we'll just run this. So we'll just see how it comes down on the tablet. Now tablet has a sufficient space to show not only the list of headers but also the file associated with each header, so it will all come down on the same screen, whereas in case of phone, as we have a very limited space, so as we click a header, it will open the preference file within the entire space, but in case of a tablet it will show them side by side. Just see it comes down on the loading. Try to run again. See if his score come down. Not yet. So there it comes down. So I just click this button and we have the headers coming up. Some error coming.